A sprawling FBI probe into mafia-linked gambling and sports rigging schemes are sending shockwaves across the NBA and the United States. This is all part of two different major federal investigations dubbed Operation Nothing But Bet and Operation Royal Flush. The accusations in the indictments are rather shocking. NBA players faking injuries, underperforming in games on purpose, even giving insider tips about other players such as Lakers star LeBron James. Then there is the separate case, rigged poker games, where officials say high-tech cheating technology, including special contact lenses and X-ray devices that could see through face-down cards. That technology was used to steal millions from victims. So far, 34 people have been arrested, including Portland Trail Blazers head coach and Hall of Famer Chauncey Billups and Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, as well as former NBA coach and player Damon Jones. 13 members and associates from 3 different New York mafia families. Yes, I'm talking about that mafia, the Gambino and Genovese crime families, among others, also arrested. CNN's Bryn Gingras has more on the arrests and the shocking allegations that are making the NBA season's opening week rather unprecedented.
Your winning streak has ended.
A takedown of an alleged gambling criminal enterprise linking 4 New York City mafia families and NBA stars.
Welcoming Chauncey to the Hall of Fame.
Portland Trail Blazers head coach and Hall of Famer Chauncey Billups, Miami Heat star Terry Rozier, and Cleveland Cavaliers alum Damon Jones, among more than 30 people arrested for their alleged involvement in one of 2 elaborate schemes involving illegal betting on NBA games or rigged poker games.
Let's not, mince words. This is the insider trading saga for the NBA.
One document describing Rozier and Jones sending insider tips on players and teams, such as whether a player, including Rozier himself, was going to be sidelined or sick, placing bets to favor their odds and maximize profits, and then allegedly laundering their winnings, totaling millions of dollars.
They placed wagers on unders on players to score less, rebound less, assist less, using information that was not yet public. In some instances, players altered their performance or took themselves out of games to make sure that those bets paid out.
In a second scheme, Billups and Jones allegedly teaming up with members of La Cosa Nostra crime families in underground poker games.
The scheme targeted victims known as, quote, fish, who were often lured to participate in these rigged games by the chance to play alongside former professional athletes who were known as, quote, face cards. What the victims, the fish, didn't know is that everybody else at the poker game, from the dealer to the players, including the face cards, were in on the scam.
They allegedly also used high-tech equipment to rig play, like this X-ray machine, which authorities read cards that were face down on the table. Also used hidden cameras and altered shuffling machines which
read the cards in the deck, predict which player at the table had the best poker hand, and relay that information to an off-site operator.
And then authorities say some defendants would resort to old-school mafia tactics to collect their earnings, such as robbery and extortion. I'm going to wait outside poker games and pistol whip 5 winners a week, one text message read in court documents.
And Jake, you said it, news of these arrests really just stunning the NBA in the week of its own openers. Rozier, actually playing against the Magic last night, sitting out on the sidelines, though, was arrested this morning in Orlando. His attorney says that he fully plans to fight these charges. And Billups, he coached his team, the Trail Blazers, last night and was arrested in Portland this morning. Both men are going to be coming back here to New York to face these federal charges. In the meantime, the NBA says that both men are on immediate leave from their teams while they review these indictments. Jake.
All right, Bryn Gingras, thanks so much. Let's bring in, for more discussion, former federal prosecutor Barrett Berger, who has prosecuted organized crime and racketeering cases in the Eastern District of New York, as well as USA Today sports columnist Christine Brennan. Barrett, the charges for the more than 30 involved in this illegal sports betting scheme range from wire fraud to money laundering, extortion, and robbery to illegal gambling. How do you anticipate prosecutors are going to handle these 2 separate yet overlapping operations?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how these cases proceed, because while they do share some defendants, they really do allege pretty different schemes. My guess is they will be two separate cases. It'll proceed on two separate tracks. This is really the type of case that the Eastern District of New York has done before, and they do incredibly well. This obviously was a very complex, long-term FBI investigation that involved what I have to imagine is a whole slew of investigative techniques, probably cooperating witnesses. But this is what the Eastern District of New York does. They are pros at putting together these sort of large-scale cases that often involve organized crime families. This is, the Eastern District of New York has been one of the leading districts that's prosecuted mob cases. So they will do this case the same way they do those other cases, which is, methodically dealing with their witnesses, putting forth documentary evidence, and I'm really interested to see what more we'll learn in the coming weeks and months about the link between the athletes and the organized crime families.
And I have to say, Christine, for those of us who are fans of the NBA, and I'm really excited the Sixers beat the Celtics, and VJ Edgecombe is just this amazing new player for us, and all the stuff. I know my Knicks fan friends are really excited, and then all of a sudden this happens. How are NBA players and officials processing this all?
It is a shock. This is bombshell news. Although, in many ways, those of us who, and most people who've been aware of what's going on and watch commercials and see what's going on in the business world of sports and NBA, NFL, et cetera, Jake, is, this is a bombshell that is probably the least surprising news we could have, and that is a cynical view, certainly, but the idea that these leagues now are absolutely in lockstep in business with gambling and betting sites and organizations. You see the commercials, you leave for a minute, you come back to the room, you see more commercials about betting and gambling. So no one should be surprised by this. And in fact, in many ways, we should have seen it coming a mile away. There certainly has been gambling, as you well know, in sports. We can go back to the 1990 Chicago Black Sox scandal. This is not new. But what's new in the last few years, since the Supreme Court decision in 2018 legalizing gambling in the states, what's new since then is the way that these sports leagues that used to put up a wall against gambling companies and not even wanting to go to states where there was gambling, now they are completely in lockstep, in sync. And that is why I think this is just the beginning of a real nightmare for a lot of these pro sports leagues.
And Christine, do you think the NBA is going to crack down on this or just let law enforcement handle it? The players do get seminars. They are told don't do this, right? So I think the NBA will continue. And, again, the NFL has had it. Shohei Ohtani's interpreter was ensnared in something like this. So that's Major League Baseball, obviously not Shohei Ohtani himself. But the point is, this is everywhere. You've got lots of young people, mostly men, but women's sports, this could happen too, with lots of money and lots of free time and probably not listening to their agents and their leagues and their coaches the way they should be when they are warned about the dangers of gambling. And Barrett, how do cases of this size and scope usually get launched? Is it insiders tipping someone off, somebody's arrested and they squeal in exchange for leniency, or financial documents are flagged? What happens typically?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think your first comment was probably my instinct. Usually cases like this start with some sort of inside information. It's really hard to get this type of information without a cooperating witness. So, a typical way that these cases would start would be somebody would get arrested on an unrelated charge, and in exchange for some sort of leniency, they'd start cooperating. They'd start saying, hey, if you think I'm bad, let me tell you about all the stuff that's going on over here. How else do cases like this start? Sometimes they start with, investigative journalists who expose something that looks a little shady or fishy, and then the authorities follow that. Here, given the nature of the allegations, it would be hard for me to imagine starting this without some side of an insider, right? Somebody who was either at one of these rigged poker games. Maybe there was a victim that then went to the authorities and said, look, this happened to me. I don't know that this was right. And then they were able to sort of chip away. As far as the nothing but bet operation, maybe it was somebody who, either a player or somebody who got ensnared, but probably an insider.
By the way, kudos to whoever came up with nothing but bet. That's one of the best names for an investigation I've ever heard. Much better than Crossfire Hurricane. Christine Brennan and Barrett Berger, thanks so much.